April 27, 1945. Somewhere in Bavaria, near the Austrian border. The air smells like smoke and wet earth, the kind of smell that clings to your clothes and won't let go. Greta Hoffman, 23 years old, sits in the back of an American military truck, her wrists bound loosely with rope that chafes against skin already raw from days of running. She's a radio operator, or was, until the Wehrmacht unit she served with dissolved into chaos 3 days ago. Now she's a prisoner. The truck hits a pothole and her shoulder slams against the metal side. She doesn't cry out. She's been trained not to show weakness. Through the gap in the canvas cover, she watches the German countryside roll past, villages reduced to rubble, roads cratered by bombs. Everything she knew is ending. The truck slows, turns, and stops. American voices outside, casual, almost bored. The canvas flap pulls back and sunlight floods in, blinding after the dim interior. A young GI, maybe 19, with freckles across his nose, gestures for her to climb down. She does, legs shaking, not from fear but from exhaustion. She hasn't eaten anything substantial in 4 days, just stale bread and water that tasted like rust. This is it, she thinks. This is where it begins. The camp spreads before her, rows of wooden barracks surrounded by wire fencing. Not the electrified kind she expected, just regular chain link. Guard towers at each corner, but the soldiers in them look relaxed, one even reading a magazine. This doesn't match what she was told. The propaganda films showed American camps as brutal, prisoners worked to death, beaten for sport. But this place looks almost orderly, clean even. The GI leads her toward a processing building. She notices other prisoners in the yard, men mostly, some women. They're not emaciated. They're not covered in bruises. Some are even talking, laughing. One man kicks a makeshift soccer ball. Her mind struggles to reconcile what she sees with what she was taught. Inside the building, fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The smell changes, becomes institutional, like disinfectant and paper. A female officer, American, sits behind a desk. She's maybe 30, dark hair pulled back, expression neutral but not cruel. She speaks in broken German, asks Greta's name, rank, unit. Greta answers mechanically, her voice hoarse. The officer writes everything down, then stands and opens a cabinet. Greta tenses. This is when it happens, she thinks, whatever punishment they have planned. But the officer just pulls out a small bundle wrapped in brown paper, sets it on the desk, and slides it across. She says something in English, then tries in German. Care package. Standard issue. Greta stares at the bundle. It's maybe 4 inches long, 3 inches wide, wrapped neatly with the paper folded at the corners like a gift. The officer gestures for her to take it. Greta's hands shake as she reaches out. The paper crinkles under her fingers, surprisingly crisp. She picks it up. It's heavier than she expected, solid. She looks at the officer, who nods, makes an unwrapping gesture. Slowly, carefully, Greta peels back the paper. The smell hits her first. Rich, sweet, unmistakable. Chocolate. Real chocolate. Not the ersatz garbage they'd been eating in Germany for the past 2 years, made from God knows what, tasting like sawdust and regret. This is actual chocolate, dark brown, slightly glossy in the fluorescent light. Her hands start trembling harder. She hasn't seen real chocolate since before the war turned truly desperate, since before everything became about rationing and substitutes and making do. This small bar, maybe 2 ounces, represents a luxury so profound she can barely process it. In Germany, chocolate like this would cost a month's wages on the black market, if you could even find it. Here they're handing it to her, a prisoner, an enemy, like it's nothing. She brings the bar closer to her face, inhales deeply. The scent is overwhelming, floods her senses, triggers memories she'd buried. Christmas 1938, her mother's kitchen, hot cocoa made with real cocoa powder. Her father sneaking her a piece of Swiss chocolate he'd bought on a business trip. Birthdays, celebrations. A world before everything collapsed. Her vision blurs. She blinks, tries to clear it, but tears are already forming. She breaks off a small piece of the chocolate, the bar snapping cleanly. She places it on her tongue. The taste explodes in her mouth. Sweet, bitter, creamy, complex. It melts slowly, coating her tongue, filling her mouth with flavor so intense it's almost painful. Her body, starved of anything good for so long, reacts viscerally. The tears come faster now, spilling down her cheeks. She tries to stop them, presses her free hand to her mouth, but it's useless. She's sobbing, shoulders shaking, breath coming in gasps. The chocolate piece dissolves completely and she breaks off another, puts it in her mouth, keeps crying. The American officer looks alarmed, says something sharp in English. Another guard enters, a man this time, asks a question. The officer responds, gestures at Greta, at the chocolate. They seem confused, concerned even. They think they've done something wrong. Greta tries to explain through the tears in broken German and hand gestures that she's not sad, not hurt, just overwhelmed. But how do you explain that a simple piece of chocolate has shattered your entire understanding of the world? How do you say that this small kindness, this casual luxury, has made you question everything you were told about the enemy? The male guard disappears and returns a moment later with more items. Another chocolate bar, a pack of cigarettes, American brand, a small tin of something, she can't read the English label. He sets them on the desk, pushes them toward her, says something in a gentle tone. The officer adds more broken German. For you, standard rations, every week, every week. Greta stares at the pile of goods. In Germany, any one of these items would be a treasure. Together, they represent wealth beyond imagination for most civilians back home. And here, in an enemy prison camp, they're giving them to her regularly, as if it's normal, as if this is just how things are done. She thinks about her younger sister, Anna, still in Berlin if she's even alive. Anna, who wrote letters about trading her wedding ring for half a loaf of bread, about boiling potato peels for soup, about the constant, gnawing hunger that never goes away. And here Greta sits, a prisoner, sobbing over chocolate that her captors distribute like it's nothing. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. The propaganda was so clear, so certain. Americans were barbaric, cruel, would torture prisoners, starve them, work them to death. Every film, every radio broadcast, every officer's speech said the same thing. Better to die fighting than be captured by the Americans. She'd believed it or tried to. Everyone believed it. But this chocolate, this impossible, wonderful chocolate, tells a different story. Over the next hour, they process her fully. Medical check, surprisingly thorough. A doctor, also American, examines her with professional detachment, notes her malnutrition, the infected cut on her arm, the bruises from her capture. He cleans the cut, applies antiseptic that stings, bandages it properly. Gives her pills, explains through a translator that they're vitamins, antibiotics. She's given clothing, clean and worn but intact. Underwear, socks, a simple dress, a jacket. Everything smells like soap, like it's been washed recently. They lead her to the women's barracks, a long wooden building with rows of bunks. It's not luxurious, but it's clean, dry, warmer than anywhere she's slept in weeks. Other women are there, maybe 20 of them, various ages, various branches of service. Some look at her with curiosity, others with indifference. One, older, maybe 40, approaches and introduces herself in German. Hilda, former Wehrmacht nurse. She shows Greta to an empty bunk, explains the routine. Roll call twice daily. Meals 3 times a day in the mess hall. Work details, but nothing brutal, mostly cleaning and maintenance. And yes, she confirms the rations are real. Chocolate every week, sometimes more. Cigarettes for those who want them. Coffee, real coffee, not the chicory substitute. Meat occasionally. Bread that's actually bread. Greta sits on her bunk, still clutching the chocolate bar, now half-eaten. The other half she's saving, though she's not sure why. Maybe to prove to herself later that this was real, that this moment happened. Hilda sits beside her, pulls out her own chocolate bar from a pocket, offers a piece. Greta shakes her head, shows her own. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Hilda speaks quietly. I cried too, she says, when they gave me the first one. We all did, most of us. It's the shock, you see, the realization. Greta nods, doesn't trust herself to speak. Hilda continues. I was captured in France, she says. March. I expected hell. I'd heard the stories we all had. But instead they treated my wounds, fed me, gave me a bed. And then the chocolate. She laughs, a bitter sound. I spent 2 years telling wounded soldiers that the Americans were monsters. That capture meant death. And here I am, eating better than I did in the Wehrmacht. The guilt is almost worse than hunger. That night, lying in her bunk, Greta can't sleep. The barracks are quiet except for soft breathing, the occasional cough. Through the window, she can see the guard tower, the silhouette of a soldier against the night sky. He's smoking, the cigarette tip glowing orange. He looks bored, not menacing. She thinks about the chocolate, about the officer's confused concern when she cried, about the doctor's gentle hands cleaning her wound. She thinks about the propaganda, the certainty with which it was delivered. She thinks about what else might be lies. The next morning they wake to a bell, not harsh but insistent. Roll call in the yard, names checked off a list. Then breakfast in the mess hall, a large building with long tables and benches. The smell hits her as soon as she enters. Coffee, real coffee, the scent so powerful it makes her dizzy. Oatmeal, hot, with a small pat of butter melting on top. Bread, white bread, soft and fresh. A small cup of canned fruit, peaches in syrup. She sits with Hilda and 2 other women, younger, maybe her age. They eat in silence at first, the food too important for conversation. The oatmeal is creamy, slightly sweet. The butter tastes rich, almost decadent. The bread is soft enough to compress between her fingers. The peaches are impossibly sweet, the syrup coating her throat. One of the younger women, Liesel, speaks around a mouthful of bread. I've gained 5 pounds since I got here, she says. 5 pounds in 3 weeks. Back home, I was wasting away. We all were. Here, I'm getting fat on enemy rations. She laughs, but it's not a happy sound. The other young woman, Karin, nods. My brother is still fighting, she says quietly. If he's alive. He's probably starving, eating whatever he can scavenge. And I'm here, eating peaches. American peaches. How is that fair? No one has an answer. They finish eating in silence. After breakfast, work details. Greta is assigned to laundry duty with a group of other women. They work in a large room with industrial washing machines, American-made, efficient. The work is physical but not brutal. Hot water, soap that actually lathers, clothes that come out clean. The American guards supervise but don't push. One, a woman in her late 20s, even helps when a machine jams, rolling up her sleeves and reaching into the mechanism without hesitation. During a break, they're given water, cold and clean, and small cookies, plain but sweet. Greta eats hers slowly, savoring each bite. Beside her, an older woman named Marguerite speaks. I was in a camp in Poland before this, she says. A work camp, German-run for political prisoners. I was there because my husband spoke against the regime. She pauses, takes a sip of water. We were starved, beaten, worked until we collapsed. I saw women die from exhaustion, from disease, from casual cruelty. When the Americans liberated us, I thought they'd just replace one camp with another. But instead they brought us here, fed us, gave us medicine, treated us like human beings. She looks at Greta, eyes hard. So when you wonder why the chocolate made you cry, remember that kindness, real kindness, is shocking when you've been taught to expect only cruelty. The days blur together. Routine becomes familiar. Wake, roll call, breakfast, work, lunch, more work, dinner, free time, sleep. The food remains abundant, almost absurdly so. Chocolate every week as promised. Sometimes candy, hard candies that last forever in your mouth. Coffee at every meal. Meat twice a week, real meat, beef or pork or chicken. Vegetables, canned but edible. Bread, always bread, more bread than she can eat. Greta starts to save portions, hoarding them under her mattress like she did in Germany. Hilda notices, stops her gently. You don't need to do that here, she says. There's always more. They won't starve us. It takes Greta 2 weeks to believe it, to stop saving food, to trust that tomorrow's meal will come. 2 weeks to unlearn the survival instincts that kept her alive in a collapsing Germany. The psychological adjustment is harder than the physical. At night, lying in her bunk, she thinks about the war, about what she did. She was a radio operator, transmitted orders, coordinated movements. How many men died because of messages she sent? How many Allied soldiers, how many civilians? And now those same allies are feeding her, clothing her, treating her wounds. The moral calculus is impossible. One evening, about a month into her captivity, they're given a special ration. The guard, the young freckled one from her first day, distributes small packages. Greta opens hers to find more chocolate, a different kind, lighter brown with nuts. She bites into it and the taste is different, sweeter, creamier, the nuts adding texture and a slight saltiness. It's even better than the first chocolate if that's possible. Around her, other women react similarly. Some cry again, though less violently than the first time. Some laugh, the sound almost hysterical. One woman, Frietta, just sits and eats her entire bar in silence, tears streaming down her face, not bothering to wipe them away. Later in the barracks they talk. It's become a ritual, these evening conversations, processing their shared experience. Liesel speaks first. I wrote a letter today, she says, to my mother if she's still alive. The Americans said they'd try to deliver it. I tried to explain about the food, the treatment, but I couldn't find the words. How do you tell someone that the enemy is kinder than your own government was? That the monsters we were warned about are feeding us chocolate while our own people let us starve? Karin responds. You don't, she says. They wouldn't believe it anyway. I wouldn't have believed it. If someone had told me a month ago that I'd be sitting in an American POW camp, well-fed and safe, I'd have called them a traitor. But here we are. Hilda, from her bunk, adds her voice. The worst part is wondering what else was a lie. If they lied about the Americans, what else did they lie about? The war's progress. The reasons we were fighting. The camps we heard rumors about, the ones for Jews and others, were those real? Were they worse than we imagined? The barracks go quiet. These are dangerous questions, the kind that could have gotten you killed a few months ago. But here, in this strange liminal space, they feel necessary. Greta finally speaks, her voice soft. I think we have to assume everything was a lie, she says. Everything. The nobility of the cause, the necessity of the war, the evil of our enemies, all of it. Because if they lied about something as simple as how prisoners would be treated, they lied about everything else too. And that means we have to rebuild our understanding of the world from nothing. It's terrifying. Another woman, Anna, older, maybe 50, speaks from the darkness. I worked in a government office, she says. I saw reports, documents. I knew things were bad, worse than they told the public. But I told myself it was necessary, that the leadership knew best, that we had to trust the system. Now I realize I was complicit. We all were. Every message sent, every order followed, every time we didn't question, we were complicit. The chocolate doesn't erase that. Nothing erases that. The silence that follows is heavy, weighted with guilt and realization. Outside, a guard walks past, boots crunching on gravel. Somewhere in the distance, a radio plays American music, big band jazz, the sound incongruous and strange. The weeks turn into months. May becomes June, June becomes July. The war in Europe is over, has been since early May, but the camp remains open, processing prisoners, waiting for decisions about repatriation. News filters in slowly. Germany divided, cities destroyed, millions dead. The full scope of the camps, the real camps, the death camps, becomes known. The women gather around a radio one evening as a BBC broadcast in German describes what Allied forces found. Auschwitz, Dachau, Bergen-Belsen. The numbers are incomprehensible. Millions murdered, systematically, industrially. Greta listens and feels her world collapse again. She knew there were camps, everyone knew, but this is beyond imagination. Beside her, Frieda vomits, runs outside. Others cry. Some sit in stunned silence. The chocolate that night tastes like ash in Greta's mouth. How do you reconcile this? How do you process that while you were eating better than you had in years, while you were being treated with unexpected kindness, your own country was committing atrocities on a scale that defies comprehension? That night, no one talks. The barracks are silent except for muffled crying. In August, they're told repatriation will begin soon. They'll be sent back to Germany, to whatever remains of their homes and families. The news is met with mixed feelings. Relief, fear, uncertainty. Greta doesn't know what she'll find. Her family was in Hamburg, which she's heard was bombed extensively. Her sister might be dead. Her parents might be dead. Her home might be rubble. And even if they're alive, what does she say to them? How does she explain what she's learned, what she now knows? The day before she's scheduled to leave, the freckled guard, whose name she's learned is Tommy, approaches her in the yard. He speaks in broken German, offers her something. A whole box of chocolate bars, maybe 10 of them, for the journey, he says, and for after, you'll need them. She takes the box, feels its weight, looks at him. Why? She asks. Why are you so kind? We're supposed to be enemies. Tommy shrugs, looks uncomfortable. My mom always said you judge people by how they treat those who can't fight back, he says. You're prisoners, you can't hurt us, so we should treat you decent. That's just being human. It's not complicated. But it is complicated, Greta thinks. It's the most complicated thing in the world. Because this simple kindness, this basic human decency, has destroyed everything she thought she knew. It's forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about her country, her leaders, herself. And it's all because of chocolate. She leaves the camp on August 15, 1945, carrying her box of chocolate bars and a small bag of belongings. The truck takes her and a dozen other women to a train station, where they'll begin the journey back to Germany. As they drive away, she looks back at the camp, at the barracks and guard towers, at the place where her understanding of the world was rebuilt from scratch. The chocolate is in her bag, carefully wrapped. She'll ration it, make it last as long as possible. Not because she needs to, but because each bar is a reminder. A reminder that propaganda is a weapon, that kindness can be radical, that the enemy is rarely who you're told it is. And that sometimes the most powerful truths come in the smallest packages, wrapped in brown paper, sweet and bitter at the same time. Years later, when people ask her about the war, about her time as a prisoner, she'll struggle to explain. How do you convey the complexity of that experience? The shame and relief, the guilt and gratitude, the way a simple piece of chocolate can shatter and rebuild a worldview. She'll try, fumbling for words, but she'll never quite capture it. Some things can only be understood through experience, through the taste of unexpected kindness on your tongue, through the shock of realizing that everything you believed was wrong. The chocolate is long gone, eaten or given away, but the memory remains. Sharp, vivid, undeniable. A moment of sensory abundance that changed everything. A reminder that humanity persists, even in the darkest times, even between enemies, even in the ruins of a broken world. And sometimes, that humanity tastes like chocolate. If you've ever experienced a moment that completely changed your perspective, drop a comment about where and when it happened. And if you want more untold stories from World War II, stories that challenge what you think you know, hit that subscribe button. History is full of these moments, these small truths that reveal larger lies, and we're just getting started.